Again, great questions this week. The main one is on hats and how to keep them looking good. What did they do in the 18th century? Thanks for joining us today on Questions and Answers with James Townsend and Son. Ray M has got this really interesting comment here. It's just on the channel itself. It says, the comment he has is regarding the egg preservation video. I contacted you last year regarding preserving eggs and decided to give it a try using pickling lime. In August, I set aside 4 dozen eggs in the lime solution, and tomorrow morning I'll eat the last 2. Short of including the last 2 eggs, I've had a 100% success rate. Number 1, that sounds really cool. How did they turn out, and are you still alive? I want to know about those last 2 eggs. I hope you respond in a comment. Anyway, he says, my question is about your kitchen set. I have a covered area at an outbuilding that I've considered using as an outdoor kitchen. I really like the little I am able to see of your set kitchen. Would you consider either a video tour of your kitchen set or some photos? Is it modeled after a real period kitchen? Yeah, the set. There is a video way back in season 2 where I gave a little tour of the kitchen right after we made it. So I'll put a link down in the description section so you can take a quick tour of it. It is just a very small room. It's only 11 feet wide and like 8 feet deep. So there isn't a whole lot there to give a tour of, but there is a little tour. The kitchen is actually kind of based off of an existing kitchen. The kitchen that's at Virginia Frontier Culture Museum in Virginia, in Stanton, Virginia. And there's the German house there, and it's got a very tiny kitchen. I don't think that kitchen is any bigger than ours, except ours opens into a big room. Theirs is just one tiny little room, and it has a raised hearth like that. The walls are very similar. The look is similar in a lot of different ways. And that's kind of what I had in mind when I was building that kitchen set. So hopefully that'll give you some ideas. And at some point in the future, I'm hoping to get back to the Frontier Culture Museum and get a little bit more footage of that kitchen specifically. I got some footage of it. I just didn't have enough of it that I really liked it, so I didn't turn it into a video. This question came in on the seasoning the cast iron video, but it's just about the kitchen. So it's Hans Solo. Hi, John. I've been watching your videos for almost a year, and I'm an avid fan. Thank you. I am fascinated with your kitchen and was wondering if you have completed any videos going over the design and the construction of the 18th century kitchen. I talked about that in the last question. I'm curious about how the oven is incorporated into the wall, into the build of the wall. Is it an earthen oven as in your previous video? Also, are the walls straw bale? Any information or links you could share would be most appreciated. Thank you, Hans Solo, for your thanking us and the crew and everybody back here that's doing great work. The oven specifically, I'll answer that question as best I can. The walls are not straw bale. The building was just a simple pole building, and I put some OSB on the inside and created the walls like you see them so that they look like something other than a plain wooden wall. The oven is actually on the outside of the wall, and it is exactly like the oven that I made in the very first earthen oven video, except that the mouth of it actually extends through the wall, and I used a brick arch at the front of it instead of a regular arch. And early on, the first iteration of that, I did not build it with a chimney. I had hoped that it would actually burn and the smoke could come out and go up the hood. It did not work out very well, and so I ended up putting a chimney just behind the wall and sort of between the oven and the wall, if you can get the idea. It's sort of like an igloo, right? There's a little tunnel, and then there's the dome, and I put the chimney right at the front of the dome, just behind the wall, so that you cannot, of course, see it. And that it worked very well. Although right now it's in disrepair, I need to work on it again. But that's kind of how that is constructed. And I hope that gives you enough answer. When I rebuild the oven again, maybe I'll try to get some more footage so you can kind of see from the backside what's happening with the oven. Here's an interesting question that came in on the pickled eggs episode. This is Megan Haddon. Does the Carmine add anything flavor-wise? If not, I'd rather leave it out. You can definitely leave it out. It is really just for aesthetics, just for the looks. It does not add any preservation or any flavor. Here's one on the latest video that we just did, that lemon mince pie that was really good. This one's Jeff Glover. This looks like one to try. I have a question on the horn spoon you're using. Were horn spoons formed in that way, in the shape of a modern spoon, in the 18th century? If you go looking at existing examples of 18th and 17th century wood horn spoons, you will find a great variety of horn spoon shapes. Some of them had a much larger bowl and a narrower handle. Some of them were kind of curved. You can kind of see that depending on the ability of the person who's shaping the horn, some of them didn't have a very perfect shape. But you also find other ones that had a very nice shape, very similar to the ones we sell and very similar to a modern spoon. And it really has probably to do with the person who was working the horn. If it was a regular person who was working the horn and didn't have all the tools to shape it properly, they made do with whatever shape they could get it into the form of. But if you had the right forms, like a metal forms or molds that you would put these into, heat them up and squeeze them between these forms, you could form these spoons into some very interesting and spoon-like shapes. So that's kind of the answer there. You're gonna find all kinds of shapes out there. Here's a great question from Matt Weber. It's on one of the other question and answer videos. He says, I have another question about hats. In your original hat video, you say never to wear them in the rain. But if people in the 18th century never left the house without a hat, what did they do when it rained? Were the hats in the 18th century made of a different, more rugged material? The hats that we make, both the wool and the fur felt hats, and the stiffener that we use are almost exactly like the hats and the stiffener that they would have used in the 18th century. So the same kind of challenges we have with keeping a hat looking nice is the same kind of challenge they had. When it rains, the shellac that stiffens those hats, it loses its efficacy. It stops working. And the hat bodies are made in the same way. They immediately want to shrink. So if you have a hat that's been out in the rain several times, it starts to get smaller and smaller. It kind of shrinks up on your head, and it gets all floppy, which is exactly like what happened in the 18th century. And in the 18th century, they would typically expect to have their hats reworked regularly, especially if they were damaged. They would take their hat back to the hatter. The hatter would re-stretch the hat, re-block it, and cock it back up into shape or whatever it needed to happen to it to make it look good again. And they had somebody who just did that. That was their job. Today, we don't have that. We don't have a hatter down the block that's going to fix our hat for us. Labor is much more expensive, and so we just hope to keep our hat looking as nice as much as possible instead of damaging it. They didn't want to damage their hat in the 18th century either, and more than likely, people would not wear their best hat out in the rain. They would have a junky hat that they would wear out in the rain, one that they wore out in the rain all the time, or their third or fourth tier hat. They didn't mind getting damaged. So hopefully that gives you a good answer for that one. We are working hard on a series right now about getting started in living history. If you're interested in getting started, or you know somebody who is, make sure to follow the link and sign up for that little course we're working on. We're about halfway through that course now, and it's coming together very interestingly. So I'll make sure to put a link down in the description section for that. Another thing, we're working really hard on our Facebook page right now. We have a lot of great content that's flowing through the Facebook page. So make sure, if you're a Facebook person, to go down to the Facebook page and like it. I want to thank everyone for your amazing questions and comments. They just keep coming and they're so good. Thank you for all you do with the comments, with the questions. When you share our video, you help us so much. I want to thank you for all you do, and thanks for watching. If you're a new viewer and you haven't subscribed, press the subscribe button up here. That'll take you to a spot where you can subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching.